Well, first of all, Alex, nice to have a catch up with you, a little talk as well. Let's talk first of all about getting the scholar Zach Williams signed up and sign, seal and deliver. We talked to Belly a little bit about that last week. We talked to Zach himself as well, but for you as his manager, how big a statement is that from the football club that you've got him?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's great news for everybody concerned. First and foremost, we've got a player signed up for the next 2 years who's going to be very, very important for us. Zach's an exceptional player. He's a great talent. He's versatile enough to play across multiple positions. Fantastic attitude. And him and his dad have been terrific throughout the negotiations in terms of us getting it over the line, and also in terms of the bigger picture, it means that our model of producing players through the system who've been with us for a long time is still strong, because ultimately, whilst we want to see them play in our first team for as long as we possibly can, players of Zach's ilk and talent ultimately are going to go on and play at a very high level, and it gives the club a reward in a sense of, yes, we get rewarded seeing them out on the pitch, but long term as well, we're going to sell him. I think that's inevitable, and the club deserve to have the opportunity to sell our best players, because an awful lot of work has gone into them in the years that have preceded that. So it's good news all round for so many different factors, and we're delighted to have him obviously nailed down for the next 2 years at the very least.
Well, you're saying that he's right at the forefront of it in your plans, but for, you just mentioned there for everybody, if I just say from Aidan Callan's side all the way down to the people that work for him, it's crucial, isn't it, that model continues to work, because they're putting the hours in and they want that reward. Absolutely,
yeah. A lot of hard work's gone into producing not just that, but lots of the players that have ultimately played for our first team who are still here now and have gone before them, from a lot of staff, and the board invest a lot of time and effort into ensuring that we have a very strong academy. So that sustainability and the model of the club is vital in terms of being able to fetch fees for these players. And as I say, Zach and his dad have been terrific throughout the negotiations. They realise that they're very much ingrained in the Crew culture themselves, because Zach's been here for a long, long time, other than the short spell he had at Everton. So we were never really worried that it was not going to reach a conclusion that we were all happy with, but these things take time, because it's not just a case of length of contract and value of contract. There's all sorts of other things that go into it, and as I say, we're all thankful now that it's been sorted and we can look forward to the football.
Obviously things keep moving day in, day out, there's no doubt about that. You've sort of seen that for the first time. One player's decided to take his future elsewhere, and Mika Mandron, you give him that offer, you would have liked him to have stayed, but things move on. Does that open up the pathway for movement in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we made no secret of the desire to keep Mika. There was an offer on the table for him. I was open and honest with him, and he was likewise the other way. He's a great fella. I said, look, that offer's going to stand, but if we're in a position where we have other targets that we can proceed with, and it's quite imminent, I shall let you know and give you that right of reply, if you like, which we did. And Mika's in the situation where it's likely he's going to remain in League One. Can't say that for certain, but that's certainly the indications he gave me. And as a result, now we have to find a replacement in that area of the pitch, so that we've obviously got enough firepower to score us the goals we need next season, alongside the players that are already up there, like Chris Long and Basala Sambu, etc.
Is it a Mika Mandron type that you look for, a leader of the line in your replacements?
There's a certain type, yeah. I mean, you're never going to get like for like, but there is a certain type that we want to fulfil that role. Obviously, ultimately, you want your central striker to score lots of goals, but the way that we're playing, we want our central striker as well to facilitate wide players scoring goals as well through occupying the centre halves. So there's all sorts of different things that we're going to need from that play. Ultimately, and arguably, you would have to say that that's going to be the position in the team that's going to be absolutely vital to how we operate at the top end of the pitch, because we build moves through the number 9, we get him behind through the number 9, and he links to allow other players to get in. So it's a position that we've looked at really intently in terms of profile that we need, and we think we're close to getting a replacement in that sense.
A couple of players who you're allowed to move out and try their careers elsewhere in the last couple of weeks. Does that help the way that you can manoeuvre as well in terms of reinforcements?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, obviously, if players move out, then it allows you a bit of manoeuvre in terms of incoming players to then come in. In the case of Travis and Josh, all parties, agreed amicably that it was the right thing to do. I was open and honest with both the boys and said that I can't guarantee them the football that they would need at this stage of their career. They're entering, obviously, their early to mid-20s where they need to be playing football every week. That wasn't going to happen here. So we suggested that, it'd be right for all parties if they looked to go elsewhere. They were both on board with that. And obviously Josh is now sorted with a deal at Altrincham, which I think will be a great move for him, playing under good people there. And I'm sure Travis will soon follow suit in terms of finding himself a club. So they go with our best wishes. One
player that just keeps coming up with supporters is Magic Gomez. He didn't feature hardly at all, and he's hardly featured since he's arrived here. You're now his manager. What's the state of play with him?
There's things going on behind the scenes, obviously, to ensure that situation gets resolved. There's not a lot to report back in terms of any real movement in that sense. And until there's very little point in going into any great detail in terms of where both parties are at that. What I will say is, I think there's a willingness from both parties to get it sorted as soon as possible, and when that does reach its conclusion, you'll definitely be the first to know, Graham.
I appreciate that, Alex. Thank you very much. Just on data analysis that you appointed, that appointment has come. When Chamberlain's also come. If you look at football, there was always talk at this time of year, or when you get really into pre-season, of trialists coming in. Does that sort of role that you've got here now stop that, or do you still look at the trialist situation if there's anyone around? Yeah, every situation is different. It certainly mitigates you having to do that as often as perhaps you would in the past, because you can be a lot more detailed and a lot more analytical, if you like, with the structures that we've now got in place with Glenn and Josh and John Dillon supporting that quite heavily. But as I say, every case is different, so if there is a player that comes to light that's been recommended that maybe hasn't got too good of a recent injury past, then rather than taking the risk, which we never would do in terms of offering him something despite us knowing he's a good player, we would probably bring them in to ascertain whether that injury problem or problems are things that they've overcome, and you can only really do that by looking at them out in the grass. So each case is different, but yeah, it does mean that we don't have to go down that route quite as much as we have done in the past, or perhaps other clubs still have to do. Well, since you've come up from where you were before in this particular football club, you've been heavily involved at under-23 football, and Lee Bell heavily involved with you as well. Is that an area as well that you might have made a little black book of names that might have been released at these big clubs that you could look at as well, possibly to come and help your first team squad?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in the senior team through my under-23 role and coaching the first team for a long time in terms of years, probably 6-7 years now. So I've lived within that environment, despite being moved up to manage the team now. So there's plenty of names that I'm aware of and come to light. It's not like I'm starting from scratch in that sense. And Lee's learning quickly about, obviously, the names and the potential possibilities for us from under-23 clubs. And he was quite immersed in that as the under-18 coach as well before anyway. And you add that to the people that we just mentioned, and Kenny and Fred. There's plenty of us that have got lots of eyes and ears about, lots of contacts, which will allow us obviously to be as detailed and clinical as possible in terms of our recruitment.
Are you seeing it move quickly now? Clubs that, getting the players in that they want, and you're part of that as well. Is it all on the go, as they say now? Yeah, I mean, we've obviously been really pleased with the two we got in, and I've not spoke to you about that, so I'll touch on it briefly with Kelvin and Connor, two very good players, and what's more pleasing than that really for us is the influence they're going to have off the pitch as well. The good players who are on the pitch, their influence is going to be exactly what we would expect, but off the pitch they're going to be outstanding leaders in the way that they carry themselves around the changing room. And what was particularly evident when I spoke to Connor was he kept speaking about, without being prompted, discipline and standards throughout
the period when we sat in this room and first met with him. And that's something that's completely aligned with what we're trying to promote here as well. And ultimately we're both of them well, which is the most important thing for us. Probably more important than the type of player they are, is that they want to be here. Both of them want to be here. You know, we all know Calvin's history. He's delighted to be back. Connor turned down opportunities to go to many other clubs who would have arguably all offered them, you know, a more, appealing financial package, because the minute he walked through the door and saw the place and spoke to us, he was sold on us. And those are the players that we want into the building, and that won't change with the ones that we do recruit in.
I've heard he's moving to the big city as well, but we won't mention that. But he's picked a good choice if he is. So
he's,
we'll talk about that another day. But he's done well.
That's right.
I influenced that myself. Just finally on the 2-day trainings.
Yes.
Set up. How's it all going?
Yeah, good. The players are reporting back in. The local ones are. We don't bring the lads who are based down south or further up north. I don't think we've got any not within touching distance up north. The lads down south won't be reporting in until a bit later on in the off season. We think that'd be counterproductive to travel up just for a Tuesday and a Thursday, so they'll do their programmes at home. All the boys have reported back in and they look in good shape, and they do actually buy into it because they'd only be doing it at home on a field on their own. So at least here they can obviously have a bit of a social after and catch up with one another, and we think that's the right thing to do. It's something we've done for many, many years. It predates. It certainly predates when I was the manager. We've done it, you know, since the early days with Dario in charge, and it's something this club have always felt has helped us in terms of hitting the ground running at the start of the season. So yeah, all good so far.
Cheers.
Alex, goalkeeping situation. It's one or two names have been thrown at me. Mark Howard, very experienced goalkeeper in Iceland. Is there a possibility that you might, or is he too experienced, or is he too old, or is that the area you're looking at, or are you looking for somebody to push, obviously, your number one keeper to the edge? Yeah,
there is. I mean, obviously, Will's left the club, as you know, George, so there is an area there in the goalkeeping department that we're looking to fill. All sorts of names have been looked at, not just Mark. Mark has been spoken about, actually, so you've obviously got your eyes and ears close to the ground, as usual there, George. But we are no further along in that position than we are anywhere else in terms of confirming anything permanent. We won't jump into making a decision on that area of the pitch. There are a lot of options available, and you have to be far more selective, I think, when you're looking at the goalkeeper department, because there's ways and means to cover areas of the pitch if you're short during the season. Whereas in the goalkeeper department, you're not. If they're injured, then you've got a problem. So we have to make sure that that's the right decision, and we're along the line in terms of narrowing down targets, but not close enough to be in a position to name anyone yet as a signing.